Alrighty then, Din, we are ready to go.
Oh, hello! How is everyone doing? Yeah, you know what it is already. We're back, we're doing it. We've been waiting for this one for ages. I'm going to get us straight into it with our guest. Usually we put the guest intro last, but we're going to go straight into it. So, Ghost, tell the people a little about yourself and what you thought of sort of recent chapters and stuff like that. And also tell the people when was the last time you did something for the first time? Let's go with that.
All right, so I am Ghost Train of Thought. I've been on TikTok for about a year now. Actually, I like just passed my year mark. I'm just getting on those like on this day sort of thing. So pretty good accomplishment for me to actually stick with something that long.
Congrats. So yeah, congrats. Yeah.
I'm happy that I've actually stuck with it. I've met some great people. But when was the last time I was on here? It had to have been like.
Was it the Stream of Liberation?
It was the Stream of Liberation, the big collab. That was great. That was a great time. I was there for like most of it.
It was a good one.
You're streaming with us in our hearts every day.
That was a gigantic stream.
And there might be a second one coming up. I've heard some things. Just saying.
Rumblings.
Yeah, rumblings.
Yeah, rumblings.
But this new chapter was absolutely insane. It was everything that I've wanted, and more, and it just gave more questions to my own theories and kind of just swayed me in like a direction, because there's like two possibilities it could go and it still fits, and that's my whole Goka theory, where it's like
you did bring that up last
five
time.
elders are kind of like within this collective of a bestowed power, but we'll get into that as we go on.
Yeah, we shall do. And when was the last time you did something for the first time?
What was that last part, sorry?
Am I not coming through clearly?
No, I am just terrible.
Okay, don't worry. So am I. Like I said, and lastly, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
Oh, the last time I did something for the first time. Probably axe throwing a couple of months ago. That was really fun. Got the technique down pretty quick.
That's a heavy shout. I'm not sure if I'm going to ask anyone else the question now, because that's a good answer. But yeah. Okay, right. So let's bring the captain in, Lucas. Do your thing.
Hello, guys. It is I, Straw Hat Lucas, captain of the Last Ark. Of course, we're joined today by Fritz, Josh, and Kube, the legendary shipwright, musician, and historian of the Last Ark. And I can never ever forget my first mate, Din Kushi. And of course, the legendary Ghost Train is here. And hold on 1 second, because you said something just now about the Gorosei that I've been thinking about for a while as well. And it's you said something about them like controlling this one collective power. I would love to ask, do you think they have some sort of hive mind, especially after we saw the like telekinetic link that they have?
My wife put it really like succinctly. They operate in the way that Vegapunk and his satellites do, as far as like their information goes and how they're able to link up in that way. I don't know if it's necessarily the same type of link, but it's like the same avenue. They might be using the voice of all things, but it's like that same train of thought, right? But
you said it.
You have to, man.
He said his catchphrase. Everybody freak out.
Yo! We heard it. The train of thought, right?
It's like word of the day, man.
Exactly. You get $500. Woo!
Yeah.
To be honest, I was impressed that when you said my wife, all of TLA refrained from going my wife, which they were all thinking. So we're off to a good start. We
were being respectful. Yes.
Yeah, we're definitely being respectful.
Huh.
Bring us up.
Hey!
Oh my God.
Very nice.
Very nice.
You said my wife, she's dead. High five!
All right, all
High
right.
five.
Let's not.
All right. We just
Fritz, on
derailed
that
the
note,
ghost
you're
train.
up next.
No, it's okay.
Fritz
Yeah.
did shipwright of the last arc, and I am feeling naked on my face. I am beardless.
Oh wow, yeah.
And it is
Yeah.
it's not fun. But I had a beard for about 2 years, and I'm going for a hard reset, so should be growing
They'll
back
look
pretty
great.
quick.
Mhm.
I've already got the sandpaper going on.
Some say he uncovered some relics after he shaved it off, but it might be rumored.
Ancient history.
He
Yeah,
said,
I heard that the poneglyph from Alabaster that Zoro found was in his beard.
"Oh my god."
Yeah. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, there was a
We
lot
don't
of
talk about that.
non-canon filler inside my beard for some reason.
I'm gonna have to
some
upgrade
reason.
your. I'm gonna have to change your nickname from the Bearded Wonder to the Beardless Wonder.
No.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
true.
have to change to that.
Oh, don't worry. It's
Beardless dragon.
Now I do have a question for Fritz. Did you shave your face so that your character Freddy D Ditz was like more hip and young for the young crowd, so you can get their votes in to make Marines great again?
no,
Oh,
no.
fellow
But,
children.
but now that you mention it, there might be a spin on that. The allegations
Yeah,
against
that's
me and
good.
my constituents are completely unfounded and completely untrue.
Wow.
Uh,
I thought it was wild that it turns out that after he had a shave, I realized I actually know Fritz from when I was a child. I just never noticed.
yeah,
Just,
never noticed it.
Kind of
I will
nuts.
say to chat real quick if I can that we will not be discussing 1111 spoilers just yet because the wonderful musician of the last arc who is next, Joshua Vykthor, is present and he is specifically non-spoiler. So let's go. Josh, spit some stuff, my man. How you doing today?
Yo, I'm good. I'm ready to spit some shit.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, no spoilers
And
yet.
Last and certainly least, the wonderful historian of the last arc, Cube of the Red Sea.
What up, everyone? What up? What up? Excited for this devilish discussion we're gonna have.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Cube, I have to ask you a question as well. Where did you get your wonderful new avatar?
I got it from the wonderful Kusoland. For those who don't know,
Kusolendo.
yeah, he made this unique avatar based off all the different shonen characters I like, villains and protagonists.
Oh, it's really cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird. It's like
Yeah.
me not having a
But it
beard,
turns
you
out-
not have a square red face or something like.
You mean you're not a trapezoid?
Shave. Shave, yeah.
You know what they say? New year, new me. That's my new me.
Okay,
shout out-
so right, let's just get. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you're good. I'm just going to shout out the rest of the Last Arc crew that is in the chat. Obviously, we got NoChillDill, the wonderful
Oh, big.
wonderful navigator of the Last Arc 3-day trip, and of course the head cook, vexyz, lurking legend. What is up, you beautiful people? But yes, Dindin, send us down the road, or should I say the rails of the ghost train.
Okay, I think my son's pretty keen to. I'm not sure if you can hear him, but he's keen to talk about the new chapter. So, okay, right, Ghost, start us off with. It doesn't need to be soft. Let's just get straight into it because time, I know. Yeah, Saturn looks like a spider. Okay.
Yeah.
I know. You keep shouting spider at me really loud, my son. Anyway. Right. So don't worry about going soft. Let's just get straight into it. What was the first impressions after the most recent chapter? And I know you've made some shorts on them, so you're welcome to just go plug them straight off the bat. We'll get the links in the chat and we'll get it going.
First impressions of the chapter, I loved seeing all the parallels and like the different imagery from like past arcs coming through, like with Valkyrie's transformation kind of resembling the mountain god from Odin's backstory, the Itsumade having more of like a Shandian like callback, which brings me to like that whole Marcus Mars traitor theory. And he is the Itsumade, but if you look back at the Gonfal and Pierre transformation, when he goes into his bird form, he has more of a human face and the beak. So in that representation in parallel, that kind of represents the more traditional sense of what the Itsumade looks like, with like the man face with the beak. And then we see the one in 1110 looks more like like the Quetzalcoatl bird that I kind of theorized it would look like, more of like the plumed serpent. So I was still happy with my theory being like 90% correct. But yeah, it's really cool. Nosjuro, I would never have guessed he was as a centaur or something. I always described him as looking the most human, so I guess I'll put that in like a 25% win. Because with the his form, he could possibly have a 6-sword style now. I'm looking forward to that. So you remember Kaku had his 4-sword style with his sky splashes with his legs. Nostro is up to 6, and I was trying to guess what his model was going to be, and I kind of went with Slipnir, the like 8-legged horse. So we're already up to 6. So I'm kind of looking nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's Hamadi cool. A few people, but I remember you talked about some stuff like that, and we do have the Rock and like Ho-Ho from Pokemon and stuff, and I'm sure Lucas thinks it looks like a couple other Pokemon, but I won't bring that up. It's not a very good analysis. But yeah, there was something else. Oh,
called out.
I was going to ask you if Gandigara say he's a centaur, like you say, where do you think his stomach is? Do you reckon it's in a normal person's or a horse?
Like where would you disembowel him?
Yeah, I mean it's
wait.
probably not.
Does he have 2 stomachs as well?
Exactly.
Well,
anyway,
that kind of falls into like what I think about the Gorosei is they're all sort of amalgamations of 2 things to a degree. Like except for like Workury is kind of harder to like place unless he has some sort of weird like fishman aspect to him where he's just like Wotan boar,
Yeah.
Because the Fengzi is like related with rains and storms, so you have that slippery aspect if you want to go that way, right?
Yeah, from what I heard about Fengzi, it's related to dogs, but I don't know the resemblance in the chapter apparently reader.
Yeah.
So.
And Jupiter's worm, I think, is stirring up the conversation back when we see their initial transformations, like when that massive creature was on the stairs. That's just Jupiter in his hybrid form, because if he was in his regular, like, full transformation, he would have destroyed the throne room just passively, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's basically the only one that was insistent on going on his hybrid form because he had to.
Yeah, I think that as well. That's why he has like the residual limbs like a T-Rex, like just chilling.
Which pushed me to that like one direction where I was like, oh, he could be like that mole lizard, which kind of ties in Dak's theory with like Pluton being a mole and like everything. It kind of just fit narratively everywhere. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then when TCB did their like translations, they did sand worm. So I'm like, okay, it could kind of be what me and Den were talking about, where it could be a little bit of both of just the regular sandworm and that little bit of draconic aspect.
Not to derail the conversation at all, but what was the yokai name for Nosjuro in the official translations?
The Bakatsu. I haven't been able to actually find a page like
anything on it. Yeah,
struggling.
That's what I was pulling up all the yokais from the chapter by name on the website that I used to research yokais, and his is the only one I cannot find. And I did a Google search and also could not find it. So I think your assumption that there are multiple yokais or even just different mythical creatures mixed together is very, very spot on.
Well, like the mythical creatures themselves are kind of like a mashup of creatures. Like the Ushi Oni is supposed to be an ox and a spider, and then you have the Itsumari, which is like a serpent man bird. It's like,
but also the Bakotsu literally means the skeleton horse, so it could be just referred to the fourth horseman, the horseman of death.
Yeah. When I first saw
it from a novel or something, like something that's completely fictional that Oda liked. Because if you think about it, the Nika thing is something that is a mixture of like 3 different cultures into one. I think it's a music god, the Greek god of victory, and another one. And so it can be similar thing with like the monkey, obviously the Sun Wukong and Hanuman. So it could make sense that maybe for Workery, like maybe also I would say Blackbeard, it could come from something completely fictional that he created or read in the story.
Yeah, and I think that like whole amalgamation of the Gorosei is going to fall under another in-universe entity, which is that like whole Goka thing that I've been kind of preaching across TikTok and I need to bring to YouTube. But just like Nika, Goka has like a similar but opposite aspect to them, just like how Blackbeard and Luffy interact.
TikTok Jesus speaks and we do listen. So I do. It's interesting. Jack, one sec, please. It does. You mentioned serpent as well, and I thought that's interesting. Like the sandworm's the only serpent that we saw mainly. Obviously, the Tsunade's version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well,
I thought we'd see something more like serpent-like or dragon-like, you know, like at the top of the world.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely thought it was going to be a salamander type yokai, if anything.
Yeah.
With the worm one. But I'm now, after reading the chapter, I'm definitely looking into the Mongolian death worm, which is a cryptid from obviously Mongolia, but it's sandworm basically. It's the inspiration for the sandworms in Doom. It's an old legend.
I still think that in the original chapter could still be Emu, and Emu has some sort of dragon transformation.
Yeah, potentially. What? So is that what you're? This Gokai though? What is this exactly? I've heard you talk about it before.
So just like as a refresher, Goka is the like speculative second name of that like Medaka mermaid within Fishman Island. It goes like Yonka 1, Yonka 2. Usopp says, "Why isn't it Goka?" So I looked into it because Usopp's telling the future, obviously, and it translates to roughly like 5 fruits. Or, you could translate either to like 5 actual devil fruits or just 5 powers. Or something that falls under an extension of 5 powers. Like however you really want to place it. And then underneath it, it has this whole like cause and effect with like Buddhist stuff like Shintoism. And I'm like, okay, so that kind of ties in my whole Blackbeard. What's the Garinto shrines, where they're like Buddhist shrines.
Okay, yeah.
They all match up to his rings. Yeah, exactly. And his rings all match up to the different like elements that shrine represent. So that kind of falls within that same category, because he's probably like the remanifestation of Goka, just like Luffy is the new vessel for Nika.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot because. Oh, go ahead, Dindin.
I was going to say, would you say like, is Emu like the person? Is she a Goka as well, or did she summon these?
I like Emu themselves is like Goka, like that representation, and probably like had the initial pact, kind of like if for like a AOT reference, kind of like Ymir and like the Titans. That's kind of like how I see the Gorosei. Like they're humans, but they were given an extra external power, whether it's demonic or whatever it is. They were given something on top of their human presence. And over time, they lost their humanity or whatever it is, and now they just see people as insects. But so that the celestial dragons would just think that anyway, because that's just how royalty and the upper echelons have always been throughout history. That's nothing new. And to me, that just kind of leads to me thinking like, I don't want them to be demons. I want them to be humans who gained demonic power. Sure, that's fine. But I want them to have initially been humans, because that just cheapens everything else that they've done throughout the series. If it's just demons doing what demons do, ruling the world.
Agreed.
In my Faust theory, I said that. Now this is obviously not verbatim, but like I said something about them being like devils. And an idea I played around with it as well is that they gained, like where each devil fruit has a devil inside it. Instead of that, they took in the devils themselves to gain their powers. Right. So I really enjoyed this. It's Goka. Like I said, you've talked to me about this before. I'm trying to look it up. How's that spelled?
Goka. If you just put on like Goka Japanese meaning, it'll be one of the first entries that comes up. So
got you.
It's a complex spelling.
I typed that in yokai. Oh, okay.
Do you think like devil fruits play an element in any of this at all, or?
Well, I think what kind of like what Lucas was saying, extracting the devil out of the fruit, that's kind of going along with what Saturn's been trying to do and how he was trying to incorporate Bonnie's fruit into her by like extractions.
Yeah.
So like similar, but I think they're just trying to recreate something through science that is unexplainable by nature, similar to how devil fruits were created by Nika. Something unexplainable by nature, right? They wanted something equally as powerful, so they had to do something equally as absurd.
So, where do you think that the summoning circles that they use may have tied to them extracting the devils from the devil fruits initially?
Possibly, like as either extracting those particular devils as like, here, bring these particular fruits or whatever fruit you want to ascend to, bring those to me, and those will become the new like ancient weapons that are inherited. Like because like in that lineup of the mermaids, you have like Nika, Ichika, Sanka, Yanka. Those are all like Nika and the three ancient weapons, and then Goka was the one obscured by the ancient kingdom. Like in Fishman Island, that name was obscured, similar to how Nika was obscured by the world government. So just like they tried to get rid of some history, so did the ancient kingdom. They're just like, well, screw you. We don't want this to come back to power. Like, we don't want this to gain more traction, because the more belief there is in something, the stronger it becomes.
Yes.
So they gained this massive power only to have the ancient kingdom say, Uno reverse. No one's going to remember you either. And then they just had to lay dormant until they, you know, kind of like Dragon is kind of just biding his time, seemingly inactive when they have all this power. It's just like, yeah, you have to wait for the right moment. Roger was too early. Dragon understands that there is a perfect time to do things. That's why he's not moving, and that's fine. We get that.
I like to think Dragon's listening to the ways of the wind.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, especially
he understands.
if he has a wind. Yeah, like in like I think it was our wonderful Navigator 3-day trip who said when he stares into the wind, it isn't just to like stares to the east. It isn't just to remember Luffy or anything like that. It's him listening to the winds to see how his son is doing, and it's like, oh yeah, that's wonderful.
There's a comment in there by Daedric Assassin saying he has a theory cooking where the Emu has a similar devil fruit to like Moria. That's actually a very good point, because when we see Moria creating his Doppelman figure, when the ink, or like it's not the ink, the shadows are going into each other, there's a singular point and it's 4 going into 1, kind of like the world government symbol.
Yeah.
It's 5 points converging into 1. So like it's very perfect. And that whole extension of power is kind of reversed with Moria taking power away from people and giving it to others.
Absolutely. I really like
so
it's
everything ties back to Thriller Bark. Everything ties back to Thriller Bark, bro.
So if it's not like a Doppelman, that's probably going to be like the Goka entity that's like the shadow figure, right?
Real quick before I ask you this next question, I got to shout out John Sherrod on all social medias. That is JJ, part of OPU, who, if you're not subscribed to the Marshall D. Preach channel, go do so. OPU is the cousins of TLA. We love those guys. But yeah, so what do you think exactly would Emu's devil fruit be then? Do you think it's similar to, because I think personally that they are just like the Gorosei, a form of a devil themselves. So do you think it's like that, or like that they
believe like it could be like form? They could be like originally a fruit that was like, here, I'm going to become something that you can consume. So like the first devil to make a pact, and like that's in like a more sinister pact. Like the ancient kingdom may have found a way to circumvent it through belief and desire and like good intention, whereas all these yokai fruit and all these like things that are manifesting a darker symbol were through like a darker desire.
Spicy. Yeah, that's interesting. Some people have spoken about how like devil fruits, like they like the Gorosei might be people that have been overtaken by their fruit. Like the will of the fruit is now the will of the infinite. But I do completely agree with you, just pulling it back a bit, about the Gorosei being human and grounded, so that we can like having a giant worm, a huge space worm. I was thinking about it the other day, like it's cool, but it's not like the biggest thing we've seen in One Piece or anything like that. Like we've seen some pretty giant stuff. What makes it cool is that like these are just dudes, right? Like, so it has to be relative. Excuse me. And yeah, I hope Oda does keep with that. Which I think this is why we get like the summoning circles and stuff to sort of show that like there is a what they call it in FMA an equal exchange. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
an equivalent exchange.
Lucia was just blown up. That's a whole lot of life to transmute
Exchange
a whole
with.
bunch of people
Yes.
across the
Yeah.
world.
In the anime, in the anime, they showed like loads of summoning circles in the sky when the Lelicia weapon was going
This stuff just reminds me so much of Full Metal Alchemist. Like what you was just saying about Dragon looking in the winds is like the people of Shing trying to read the Dragon's pulse, and they see a corruption in their country, how nothing's working right. It's like what Dragon's looking at in the wind. It's like, oh my god.
Dragon is Scar.
Yeah.
Just going around. No. I'm sorry, little one.
I'm sorry, little one. Goodness, but no, that's a not to keep going back to my Faust theory, but go watch that, guys. It's on the Din Din Kushi channel. Let's go.
Oh no, it's all related. Like it all ties
the
in.
summoning circles. Yeah, they've got to be something with that and how they got their powers. Deal with the devil, if you say.
I mean,
it's
wild that we're even having these conversations. You know what I mean? Like the fact that like there could not just be a Faustian deal in One Piece, but like an actual like Faustian deal. Like and just general sacrifices and the cleansing, God Valley, stuff like that. It definitely leans towards this, like Kube's been talking about it for a long time now, this idea of like farming souls, you know, like and reincarnating wills and stuff like that by force.
Well, and that whole like farming of souls could be symbolic of like through Enel's cover story where they're mining the moon, right? And like the whole sun god Nika thing could be kind of reversed to like a moon god Goka, like since people want a moon god, if you want to attribute that, sure, we'll go that route.
Yeah.
It kind of fits. If you think about Emu's eyes and the way that the moon affects the minks and all that, and they're like all going red, it's the same effect that their eyes have. They're like going back to their primal urges of like the moon.
Yeah,
well, there's a religion. It's wild you brought the moon into because there's a religious belief. I can't remember what it is though called. That believes that our souls are recycled souls that go to the moon and they like recycle them on the moon. So like wild if Oda ties that in as well. Yeah, like it's wild. But Josh, yeah, go ahead. What were you saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that I don't think that is gonna be represented by the moon. The moon in One Piece doesn't really mean something bad, like you said with the Minks, and also the Kozuki family was named after the moon, and Luffy jumping in front of the moon right after awakening his fruit. Like I've been saying for a while, someone else is gonna be the moon god, and I think that's gonna be Buggy.
It's definitely a complex concept, but like I completely get what you're saying, Josh. Like a lot of people obviously naturally think moon opposite sun bad, but it's not. It's like it's the dawn and the dusk, right? And there are complex elements to both. And Blackbeard obviously definitely has ties to sort of like he doesn't sleep and stuff like that. He has ties to night and yeah.
I mean, but simply the moon is a beacon of light in the sky, like. It's representing what is gonna come after the dawn. Like it's a beacon of hope, the god of hope.
Well, and then if you go back to the whole aspect of the sun and the moon working in conjunction and together, there's a little bit of like a wacky theory and like kind of just wordplay thing that I found. I don't know if Oda did it intentionally, but it was great. So you have Luffy and Kobe as kind of like these rivals within the Marines and pirate world, and we see this honesty impact, which seems like such a cheesy name for a move, but you look at the name, there's this something called the honesty flower, which has like another name, but it ties in lunaria, which, you know, moon, lunar. So him kind of being that conjunctionary good in the world, opposite of the sun god, to like if that kind of makes sense, like working in tandem to better
guys,
the world. That's his whole thing.
You heard it here first. The moon god is Kobe. I don't control these things. This is Ghost World. We just live in it.
I mean, we see it in like I've got like I'm gonna have to shoot shortly, and I'll join in the end because I've got to go export this video, which is about yokai, and in it I do talk about like the sun and the moon and how like we see it in countless media. You know, Naruto is a really good example. Naruto needs Sasuke, Sasuke needs Naruto. Like it's a continuum, and that relationship, what forms in between that is what is the power. You know, is the power source that will bring justice or bring righteousness. Let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, I still see it as, and I'll say it's this, and I think that's a representation of the world government flag. I think the connection between Imu and the sun god is the sun. Imu is the shadow of the sun, and right now it's serving as an eclipse. Thus, you have the world government flag.
Mm-hmm.
So it has more of a role as an eclipse, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
and you
he's
think
definitely
about how many
shadow.
like cycles of the moon there are. There's 8, so you have like
Yeah.
800 years. You know, that you make that extension.
Yeah, and if you take with Thriller Bark, it's the opposite of what happened to Luffy. His shadow was taken, but the rest was kept.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
one thing they took is
I
the shadow,
wanna-
so it would be the opposite.
I want to shout out Daedric again in the chat because while you bring up Thriller Bark, because they said also when Moria kills little oars during Marineford, he uses a lizard shadow move that looks very similar to Imu's arrow, and then Dofi was ordered to take out Moria from someone higher up. Like that's spicy. That is very spicy. But you guys were talking about the
I'm gonna
eclipse
say
and
that.
everything. Go ahead.
I think that Imu represents the Earth. Like the two beliefs that the planets encircle the Earth, not the sun and things like that, or with all the propaganda. So yeah.
I got to shout out again, Michelle RC in the chat just said the moon could never shine without the sun. So Josh, Buggy cannot shine without Luffy. Like he's failing up because of what Luffy did
following
to him.
in his sunlight.
If Luffy, Luffy is the reason that Bucky set out to set out to sea.
Yeah, shout out to the wife in the chat.
Hey. That's awesome.
Good stuff.
I'm gonna make a video about this eventually, but yeah, Luffy shined upon Buggy belief since the start of the series.
Yeah, literally, like the first big, like I know Alvida became before Buggy, but like the first main antagonist of an arc was Buggy, like because we had Axe and Morgan as well, but the first pirate antagonist,
think about this.
Of an arc, like
the second Delphoid introduced was Buggy's Delphoid. That's how important he is.
And also, Luffy shined upon hope on Buggy. He made him set out to sea. Also, Luffy liberated Buggy and from Impel Down and got him a massive workforce. Like all the success is due to Luffy. Also, because if it wasn't for Luffy, Kaido Big Mom weren't gonna be taken out.
Right.
Yeah. Buggy wouldn't be a Yonko.
Yeah, he set up a lot of chain events that inspired a lot of people, and that's his most dangerous ability outside of his devil fruit, is just being able to convince people to reckless abandon, you know?
Mihawk said that straight up in Marineford. That man's greatest power is his ability to unite. Like it's right there. But I've always thought, when we were talking about the moon and like the eclipse stuff, I've always thought Blackbeard represented the eclipse. That which will cast its shadow either over the sun or over the moon. Especially with his darkness that consumes all, like it just makes too much sense.
Well,
But
I
that
think
gets
it's just like
into
how
the
there's so
Joker
much
thing.
sun imagery within the Straw Hats. Like they all kind of represent, like, you know, the sun god extension in some way. Like Frankie in particular, like has so many like little symbols that he's always.
Yes.
For me, honestly, I'll say this.
Yes, I've been spit on that for so long. Sorry, Cube.
For me, Blackbeard, I think he always represented the deep sea, the darkest part on Earth. How he can solve anything, the pressure, everything. He's literally like the ultimate thing, like like not the source, but what will swallow everyone at the end. You know, if the planet erupts, and that's Blackbeard. You know, his representation.
There was another theory I had that they tried to recreate the sun god Nika fruit, and that's how the Yami Yami kind of came to be, and it was like a incomplete, misclassified fruit in some way. Because if you look at how like the life of a star, and it's like a regular lifestyle if it doesn't supernova, it turns into a white dwarf star.
Yeah.
That's how Luffy is. He's just completely white dwarf star. On the opposite end, if it supernovas and is able to contain, it turns into a neutron star, which would be a properly replicated fruit. Or in the second branch, if it explodes and implodes on itself, becomes a black hole, like Blackbeard. So Vegapunk having that pseudo failure because it was the wrong color could be a much more, refined and better outcome than the previous time somebody tried to recreate a deity fruit or a mythical Zoan.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably figured, okay, let's not try a human fruit. Let's see if we can tame a beast first.
Yeah.
Because a human is too many factors. A beast is a little more limited if you think about that.
I think I've also been thinking a little bit about this just because we're talking about devil fruits and everything. I've been trying to tie the Yami Yami no Mi to the Yomi Yomi no Mi because they're so close in name, and Oda loves his role play. I've been kicking around this idea of them with Nika representing the 3 types of afterlife, where Blackbeard in his darkness represents purgatory, the void, nothing, and Brook obviously representing the underworld, with his connection to the soul and everything, and then Nika being the light, the heaven, whatever. Yeah, it's interesting because there's so many possibilities to take, especially with Blackbeard's fruit, because we know so little about Blackbeard still, which is crazy to me.
And it's weird that he would call it the most evil fruit. It's like, okay, we have so many other fruits that take things in, like the swamp fruit. Like, it's the same sort of thing. What makes this more evil other than the drawing in and the potential awakening of this power? Like, that is a very scary ability, but like so many things have little pocket dimensions that are just as frightening.
Yes, the mirror,
obviously,
like the mirror fruit creates a whole different dimension. So what makes Blackbeard so evil? If it because I want to know if there is a dimension inside of his fruit, because we've seen him pull things out of it. He pulled his whole crew out of it at Marineford. So what is it like in there?
No kidding, because when he brought in that whole town before he fought Ace and liberated it, it was destroyed. So how did they maintain themselves in there?
Yeah,
got some crazy hockey.
Yeah,
all got amazing armament.
All these normal citizens are just using armament hockey.
That's what I find very interesting, that if you think of Whole Cake, how it could parallel to the pre-Void Century, Big Mom being Mother Nature, Emu. Often the first thing that happens is Alvin burns the sea. Therefore, users can't swim. One of the Sun is putting people into books. You could say like Void Century. The fruit that can of the supernova, that arc was Capon Beige, basically be able to create his own castle, stock people inside it. People can live inside. So, it's like I found it very, because I think with the supernovas, Oda specifically choose the fruits depending on the arc. There's a reason why we went deeper on Lost Fruit and Dressrosa and not in Punk Hazard. There's a reason why now we're dealing with Bonnie. And there's a reason why we got Capon Beige, and I think it's not more about him, but it's also the possibility of his fruit. Because you think about it, that's like the perfect Trojan horse.
Yeah, it's like a Pluton. It's like a Pluton thing, like a living structure that houses other living structures, kind of like how Crocus built into Laboon.
Yeah. Which I'm very excited to see Crocus in the live action coming up. I'm not gonna lie. I know I keep bringing everything back to that, but I just can't wait. I want him to be like, "You guys got to stop, or somebody's gonna die," and they'd be like, "Who?" And he's like, "Me."
Also think about this. All the close-ups of the face in the first season just gonna make that scene even better.
Exactly, dude.
You're gonna see every little detail on their faces by the time it ends.
Me. Oh goodness. So let me ask then, because we are kind of talking to Egghead and everything. What do you, and Blackbeard specifically, what race do you think Blackbeard is? Because we did hear he has something special about his lineage factor.
Well, it was weird because when you go look at the Shonen Jump, I think it says bloodline. So that could also mean just like, who he's related to, not necessarily his race. And that also makes me think that he could possibly be Emu's kid.
Oh wow.
Well, if he's like this perfect vessel and like being watched over and tracked by Emu. Like Shirahoshi, Luffy, and Blackbeard all had their posters because they're like the only 3 living beings that are like ancient weapon potential outside of like Gorosei and whatever. Because you have Pluton and Uranus that are more like unexplained because Pluton's a ship, so we still don't know what it is. And then Uranus, I think is the planet personally, but we still don't know like what it is.
What it is, yeah.
But these are people.
Counterpoint then, do you think that Blackbeard could be from the Nerona lineage then also, like potentially?
Right.
Like,
that's probably more like the likelihood, like that lineage carried on somehow, like just like they tried to eradicate the Buccaneers or whatever.
Oh my god!
A counter-offensive to get rid of the Nerona lineage because it's like, okay, he's able to do this. We can't allow any of that to get out.
And they would have infiltrated the Nerona lineage with the D moniker as well because he is a D.
Right.
Oh my goodness, that is spicy. I like that. Because then I wonder if Emu would see him as a little impure, even if he was the perfect vessel because he's a D, or even more pure because it's not only is it Nerona, but the D as well. Like, ooh. So do you think that Emu has switched bodies before in the past?
I think they've been waiting, and like just like how, again, Poseidon just remanifested after 800 years, this vessel has now waned in power. So that's why maybe this whole, like, seeing Vivi being held particularly is, it could be a red herring, honestly. Like, it would just be like, I want Vivi because of reasons, because I want a new vessel. Blackbeard could be that new vessel.
Ooh.
Or maybe the intention is Emu wants to revessel into Vivi, and Blackbeard knows their lineage and says, okay, this is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
I can just extract the power out of them with my awakened Yami and just take it for myself.
It's because I think straight up that Emu took Lily's body, because Emu has been referred, when we hear of Nerona Emu, the name of Vonkov even says it was a king back in the day. Or a sovereign or something like that. And then they refer to him as Lord Emu. But everything we have seen of Emu figure-wise has been feminine. Very feminine hands, very feminine frame, very small stature. I'm like, did they? And then we see that image of Lily as well with the crown on that looks strikingly similar to Emu's crown, just a little bit smaller. And I'm like, did they take, was it a man originally that took Lily's body? Like,
well, I think
that's
the iconography
why they still
of
say
Ivankov,
Lord Emu, even though it's Lily's face. Yeah, exactly.
That's why Ivankov's so important.
On a limb. Yeah. Oh my goodness, yes, Ghost. This is why we're here, to fucking cook.
So, like, the imagery of Ivankov doing that. Yeah, go ahead. What?
Sorry. No, I said 47 minutes before I dropped an F-bomb.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
But another imagery of, like, a man being in, like, a woman's body, like, outside of, like, the transgender representation that we have is just, like, Foxy cross-dressing twice within his arcs, and, like, that whole imagery of him possibly being a Blackbeard / Emu parallel. Like, that just becomes more evidentiary. Like, that's the word.
Okay. Vex said in the chat, King is a genderless title in Japan, if he remembers correctly. Okay, that does make sense. But no, I like that too, because I think a lot of things tie back to Long Ring Long Land. I think the whole race for the One Piece ties back to Long Ring Long Land, and more specifically the Davy back fight for sure.
Oh yeah, that's where my whole Usopp gets the pawpaw fruit theory kind of stems from. It's just like we see him with his impact dials going, boom, get me over this. Boom, get me over the red line. Boom, get me over the whirlpool. He's gonna mess things up so bad. He's gonna mess things up so bad. Like, yeah, you remember that panel? You know which one I'm talking about, right? Where there's
exactly
like the big ring, and they go over it.
Boom, yeah.
And on the other side of it is that coral that represents Fishman Island side, and then there's the whirlpools that go up towards the Florian Triangle. I think if they go into there and they spit out, like, to the north towards, like, the Amazon Lily side and the Calm Belt side, they can go, like, back to the red line. There might be, like, a separate entrance, right? Let's get all Lord of the Rings and throw a bird cracking at the side.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful, dude. Yes, yeah. because I've said this for a while that the race for the One Piece will tie back to the Davy-Beck fight, and I think that the last fight will be like, obviously if we get the Paw fruit in the crew, they're gonna circumnavigate the world again. I think everybody sees that, no matter whether it be Usopp or
Roger
Frankie.
had to do it. Roger had to do it.
Yeah.
May as well find some cheesy way to make them do at least like a quarter of the way to get back over the red line. So like if the One Piece rush is after the world government stuff, you have an easy, here we go, we have to go over the red line just like Kuma just did. So now we'll encounter the world government once more, because they're just doing like the Gorsei stuff. They might be like, we need to reprioritize a little bit. You know,
exactly too. Which ties in, like, that's how we can see Laboon again. That's how, like, but I think that will be the race. Obviously, like, the ball game they play is a little bit harder for me to place with the analogy that I'm going for, but nonetheless, I think something it could mean that the way that Luffy and his crew defeat Shanks is a game. You know what I mean? Because I see them fighting, but not to their fullest extent that they could.
Right. Like
especially if
strength sort of crap.
Exactly. Because I truly believe that Roger, and I believe it was Joy Boy Theories who had a theory on this recently. I truly believe that Roger told Shanks, it's not you either. Like Whitebeard told Preach, it's not you. You're not the man he's waiting for. I think Shanks, that's why Shanks cried when Roger was talking to him, is, he told him, it's not you. You're not the guy. But I can tell you who will be. And that's what Shanks sought after.
Right. It's just like there is a strict timeline and it doesn't fit yours. I'm sorry.
Sorry. My guy. I'm sorry. It's not you.
Hate to break it to you, son.
Yeah. It's like that whole Neville and Harry Potter thing. They're both born at the end of June. Neville was the one that technically defeated Voldemort. Like, it's that there is a chosen one. It's just not you.
Yeah. You were just chosen for this moment, just not the whole shebang.
Exactly. Cube, I would love to hear you cook for a little bit, though. What questions did you have for our man Ghost?
Honestly, I want him because we heard him talk about Nozjuro, so especially the yokais, and Jupiter and a bit of Mars. What if it? What's your thought on the fact that they all came up? Because my headcanon is whatever. I do believe that I think certain fruits, that's what Blackbeard realized, certain fruits are supposed to be together, like they were separated.
Yeah.
Like different parts of the same coin, not just two sides, but more than. And I think think that the Gorsei are a complete version of what it's supposed to be. Like Devil Fruit is one step, and they become different Devil Fruits. But I think they're like, that's why their default form is awakened. So do you think it goes to that extent, or do you think that they're able to go 100%? Because it's interesting that at the get-go, especially in One Piece, where it's all about desire and everything, unless they really want to kill Nika at that level, it makes me think like it's like this is just a default, like their first form, and Awaken is just the basic for them, the base.
Yeah, like especially if they're being granted powers, like they're going to be in an awakened state because you're going to be at your like most impactful if you're being granted something, right? You're just going to be immediately in that form. But
the purest form.
Right. Like, and then kind of going back to what Denden was saying earlier with the jailer beasts and how they lost themselves to their fruit. Saturn was allowing that to happen. Like we see his eyes go crazed and he's like, he's like losing himself to his fruit. He's able to extend further and like push the limits of his body, like Kumadori doing the whole like hair extension. He's doing that with his arms. Yo, Saturn!
Yeah.
I killed your mother!
Oh, God.
But yeah, so he's allowing it to happen, but obviously he's strong enough to take it back at the end of the day. So like to kind of go back to that whole Goka aspect, demonic imbuement, the more you allow it to take over you, the stronger you're going to be. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And there was something else that, and I didn't want to interrupt the spitting before we were talking about Soul Bark. You're talking about, how Moria was extracting the shadows away. And it is actually something of fear of, and I would like to hear your thought on it. maybe how basically whatever power they gave to Bonnie, they first gave it to Ginny and then extracted it, gave it to her, because what's interesting is after Luffy's shadow was extracted, they were weak to the sun and they would burn instantly to the sun. So I'm wondering if the sapphire scale comes from a distraction. Like he was first operating on Ginny when she was pregnant, and they transfer whatever they give to Ginny, they managed to transfer it, testing it, that the fruit ability or whatever it is, into Bonnie. But thus, not only does Bonnie inherit that power, but she also inherits what her mom gets when she gets sick, which is sapphire scale.
It kind of like replicates what the Sea Devil's curse would like physically manifest as, because you're like going against the natural order of how you would go about actually consuming the fruit. You're trying to extract it, you're trying to circumvent the system, and that's not part of the pact, so you're gonna see the results of that, right?
Yeah, it's like for me, it's like basically you're breaking the status quo. You're
Yeah,
like you don't want the fruit to go into the cycle and wait until someone desires it. So you're making sure the next person gets it, like what Blackbeard did.
and that kind
Like
of
maybe
proves the point that like eating 2 devil fruits, and confirmed by the like world government even saying it amongst themselves, is a very valid point. It's just like, we're not gonna risk that. Like we know it happens. Like,
And the one person we know of that had his fruit extracted for him was already dead, and when they left his body dead, Oda showed it by putting the sun against him, his dead body on under the sun, which makes me very compelling. What if Whitebeard, regardless of it, if Blackbeard would have extracted when he was alive, it would have had the same outcome. Under the sun, he would have died.
I want to see
Maybe.
at least one person eat 2 devil fruits in the series before it's over. I want to see somebody go mad and be like, "Oh, I have 2 powers, just like Blackbeard," and eat another one, and it just like he explodes, like we saw that Marine's head do in Egghead.
Yeah.
Like,
There's a quick little splat.
Yeah, just he's gone. Oh my goodness. Yeah, everything does tie back to Thriller Bark, though.
Yeah.
You're right.
And
Well,
another
even
thing is,
go ahead.
I don't
Yeah,
know
sorry.
if you caught that on, and I tell everyone that, did you caught Warcurry's tusk? We don't. Lucas has said it. We haven't seen the color yet, but if it's the color as in they showed in the chapter, it does look like amber lead that we saw in Law, the amber lead spot. They seem to be on
Yeah.
Warcurry's tusk.
Oh,
Yeah, which could be the possible culprit behind the amber lead, because we knew that it came out of the It's a bit like the smile in Wano, if you think about it. It affected the water, the resources.
is that the gemstone that's associated with his like planet, like sapphires are with Saturn?
No, but in one mythology, and that's Shiva who found it, they talk about the origin of sapphire by a lord called Lord Saturn. So the name Saturn does come to sapphire. So we don't know with amber if there's something with Mercury. But it was something very interesting. I felt like, what if there's my headcanon, if Warcurry is behind amber lead and Saturn behind sapphire scale, maybe Mars with that Shadorian bird is behind the tree illness 400 years ago in Jaya. Remember that Nolan was trying to cure, like maybe each Gorosei have their hands on like base other animals,
You were asking about
illnesses.
sapphire for Saturn. It's a star sapphire, but there's also several other jewels that are affiliated with Saturn.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know.
That's the one that people latched onto because of the sapphire scales and everything. So it just made the most sense.
But it's star sapphire is the specific.
He's like a star sapphire. Remember, I'm actually push his glasses up.
I'm okay with it.
Goodness. I'm okay with it. He said, "Oh gosh, Josh." What do you think about all these Gorosei?
What else can I say right now?
Now, I have a question then for everybody. What's your favorite one you've seen so far, like design-wise? Let's start with Ghost. Yeah,
I'm biased towards Marcus Mars. I love it. It looks so good.
Thank you.
Like they all look amazing. They all look really cool. But I love Marcus all around. It's the only Gorosei that I love.
I was giving some the basic answer of Nesturo because, like, let's be real, the centaur design is just insane. But I'm actually after sitting on and everything, I'm really excited to see what Jupiter does with the sandworm. Like, really excited.
Yeah,
I want to
I'm excited
see,
for
like,
that too.
someone earlier in the chat said, I can't remember who it is. I'll try to find it real quick. But they said that did Jupiter make the red line? I think it was Wani. He said, did Jupiter make the red line? And it's like, oh, did he? He's a sandworm. Sandworms technically propel themselves through sand by grinding it through them real quick. So, like, did he make it? Did he? Maybe.
Perhaps it would be an
Perhaps.
interesting callback to how his face is similar to the island eater back in Little
Yes.
Garden, and how he
Yes.
was like he poops out islands. Yeah, it kind of like that upward.
Oh,
And
dude,
also-
you might be onto something there. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, at the end of the chapter.
I mean, there's an argument to be made. That's all I'm
spice
saying. If you want to do that.
What's that, Josh?
The giants slay the Jupiter
The
at the end of the
sandworm.
chapter.
Mhm.
Yeah, just
He's
like
after
the fish.
spice.
The spice melange right there, dude.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing that we might see from Jupiter is worms have, it's ironic that he chose a worm because in the Gorosei, obviously, worms have 5 parts. So if he gets chopped up into 5, he could feasibly be up to 5 worms and then reamalgamate. That could be his whole mythical ancient ability,
Yeah, like
right?
technique, yeah.
That's it. That's his regeneration, is becoming 5 and 1.
That
One
would be
Piece is just
insane. Like,
doomed with
legitimately.
more pirates.
hmm More pirates. Happy
I mean-
birthday to Sabo. Ooh,
And
Sabo.
the headcanon that the Gorosei and Emu's like final abilities and forms will parallel every major big villain they faced off. So Kaido, Orochi, Arlong, some stuff that Rob Lucci was able to do, like life return, the way he was able to change the body structure of her body to make him faster, like certain key component that would like Enel's ability to sense people around him using this crazy level observation hierarchy with Dao Fruit. Where he was
Well,
able
there
to hear
are the
people's
6
thoughts.
powers.
Exactly, yeah.
5 Gorosei and Emu. What's they're probably going to have the crazy life return.
Yeah, and like for me, the
Emu
Orochi
will have
point,
life return.
yeah, and for me, the crazy point with Orochi, because Orochi was weak. No, but I think that ability to you cut out his head, he still comes back. They literally killed Orochi like 8 times, I think.
Yeah.
So like, and I think that component will come back as well with the Gorosei and Emu.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe-
Like that, or the Orochi thing kind of goes back to the Jupiter being decapitated and regenerating. So it's like the pseudo Hydra.
Yeah.
What were you
Yeah,
gonna say?
I
And then-
think that as well. Oh, no,
and then
I'm
you ta-
not
you-
going to
you-
lie. I lost
oh,
my thought.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Q.
And then you mix the Orochi Hydra with what Magellan can do, to creating the Kinjite, which was, remember that reddish venom that the Magellan could only create from his Dao fruit.
Yep.
It was like basically almost like what Kaido could do, melting the body. Is like, and I think this could also come back in Jupiter. So they're coming back, but also there's some sort of toxin that would be very similar to what Magellan can do. Which that toxin could break through anything. Remember, the
Yeah.
wax, the stones, anything was being melted away.
And that would tie in the Smiley's axolotl fruit, and how he's like that whole like salamander look. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
there's your parallel, Lucas, to the salamander again. We got it.
No!
And think about it. The sand dragon in the filler episode, I think he looked very similar to a salamander. I forgot the name, the sand dragon, it was a sand dragon that was attacked Luffy and Ace in the desert in Alabasta just before Planetopia started. It was a filler episode, but it was attacked the same way that Jupiter attacked them before he got
Yeah.
And the filler episodes are just as important as the regular episodes. I think once they stopped doing the cover stories, Oda's just like, fine, we're going to incorporate my canon stuff in a weird way then. Or however I can. Like the whole, like, Pluton is a mole thing is really bolstered by some of the filler, because you have Long Ring, Long Land coming up at the very end. Linking islands is a mole, and Rintoto, which is, probably Momo,
And then you still have the cover stories with the NL priest and the mole that did the Gedatsu.
Yeah, he was Gedatsu. Yeah. Shout out Kusoland Theories in the chat. Kusolendo! We love that guy.
Oh yeah, my wife was saying she's
My wife. Yes.
my wife is comparing Nostro's form to the Thestrals or Kestrels from Harry Potter. Those
Harry
like
Potter, yep.
invisible horses that can only be seen by the dead,
Yeah.
or people who've seen death and whatever. That is a really cool aspect because that ties in his whole underworld ice ability as well.
Yeah,
cool.
I thought of,
Now I
Oh,
think
go
he
ahead.
could not Jura fly.
yeah, he
I
ran
think
so
he is
fast he
going
was
to.
flying, wasn't he? Isn't that what they said on the coast, that like he was running so fast he was like, oh, they didn't say that, but like that's how I interpreted it, is that he was running over them, like legitimately over them
Mhm.
on the coast. Yeah, like that's my take on. That's how I interpreted it, though, is he was running so fast that he was gaining flight.
That
Like,
ties in that whole Sleipnir aspect that I had because they are able to gallop through the sky and they're able to traverse the Norse hell of like Niflheim. So
Yeah. Oh,
there's
that's a
that,
good one.
also that as well, kind of tying into it. So lots of inspiration, especially when I can't find what the hell a Bakatsu is.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I started
If
looking
someone
at
has a
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia page, just DM me on Discord at some point.
Yes,
and I'll look at
please.
it.
Same, man, because I need it. I need it. Well, I thought the Kelpie at first, if I'm being honest, because they drag people down to the icy depths. That's like,
Yep.
I was like, okay, he's got ties to the ice. And then when I first saw it, though, my very first instinct was Hell becomes a death horse, or comes on a death horse, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or death comes on a pale horse, and I was like, when I saw the hybrid form, I was like, oh yeah. Wait, shut up, Fritz. Ghost cracked a little bit too.
You broke.
But
me,
yeah,
dude.
you know what I mean. Like death rides on a pale horse. Okay. Oh wait, that's
get
even bad. No, yeah, you get it. That's the first thing I thought of. Like, is that Tindin Cushington?
Yeah, because Bakatsu is one of the harder ones for sure, man. Him and the worm, they stand.
They definitely stand out.
Have you spoken about Jupiter? Have you spoken about the whole, like, the fact that Jupiter was revealed? His name was revealed in Katakana, whereas all the others were kanji.
No, I didn't even know that.
I don't speak other languages.
Yeah, I am not bilingual. No.
Yeah, it's
I
interesting
am
because
too white for this.
I was touching on it earlier, but my kid was going crazy. Like there is no distinct serpents among them. Like the Itzamadi is like classed as a serpent, right? But there's no distinct ones. And like the closest to the Itzamadi and the worm. But it's weird that there's no serpents actually among them. And then I thought, like, I don't know, it's just weird that like Jupiter is a worm. He's not from Japanese mythology, and his name's spelled different. It might suggest that he's from a different era.
Okay.
I like that too, because there's been a lot of speculation that he's the newest member of the Gorosei. Even though, from what we've seen, we've only seen one of the other magic circles up close to see that there was a 4 on it. I think it was Mars's. I can't say for sure, but that does mean that there is somewhat of an order to them. What other, like, so Saturn's 5 and Mars is 4, where do you think the others fall then? Do you think because obviously Jupiter, now that he said that, I'm convinced he's from a different era. Like, but is he so strong that he's above the other ones?
Well, if you look at the paneling of like the double spread, like it shows like where they were. So like the 1, 2, 3, 4 is just right behind him. So, and then the 5 was already centered where Saturn was.
Yeah. So you think Jupiter is 1 by that logic then, right?
I think more the numbers are there needs to be 5. Like there needs to be 5 of them. Like we were saying earlier, like working in conjunction, just like Black Mirror may have found out that certain devil fruits work in conjunction with each other, and maybe you can eat 2 of these fruits if the devils cooperate or have had previous pacts with each other, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I could see a former Gorosei dying, and then maybe family-wise or something, Jupiter was the best candidate to replace him. Because if you go back in Wano, he was the one who was learning about the legend of that fruit. He thought it was a legend, and then when they're talking about Nika, the way he was talking about it, he was the only one not talking based on experience. He said it is said to be the most ridiculous power in the world. He's the only one who doesn't talk, and Saturn has shown to at least know firsthand Nika on the way he talks about him and the way he looked. He saw Luffy Gear 5 and he said, Nika. Like there's
Yeah.
experience. Jupiter shows at least he's not the old. He hasn't been there since the get-go, because he seems not to know about Nika, or at least based off stories.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
the 5 and yeah.
Kuso said in the chat that we do have all their numbers. That's crazy.
Because it wouldn't shock me that it's maybe a family thing. Like maybe Jupiter, the former Gorosei, was someone from Jupiter's lineage, and Jupiter's like, the flamingo. He was his prowess, maybe a holy knight, the number one holy knight, and he replaced him. Could make sense. Like maybe the power is only inherited by someone from that. Cause think about it. Roger wanted his own kid to become Joy Boy lineage. Think of Kaido wants his own kid to be rule Wano. If you look every time, there's this thing of there's no Garp wants Luffy to become this crazy marine. There's this thing of wanting to inherit something. So it could make sense that maybe for the Gorosei, they have to. It has to stay in the family, or else that power, that balance, like you talk, Ghost Train, goes away.
It does seem like they are a bit of the lords of like the watchtowers, and they are like not necessarily the number of which they are placed, but as a representation of like their cardinal point, like being north, south, east, west, and center, and
yeah, which should also fit with the world government flag.
Yeah. Now it's also like, don't you find interesting that the Miramura no Mi, we've seen the two users of the Miramura no Mi both come from the same island, Dawn Island. Goa Kingdom, Fuchsia Village.
Ace and Sabo,
come. Yeah, it's like I'm wondering if certain fruits they connect, like maybe like he's talking about, it's not about islands, maybe it's about certain areas, something that's familiar, which is basically shaman, possession. The spirit will only inherit something that's familiar. You have something that the previous user has, so it's familiar. There's some sort of ceremony, usually a fire festival. When Luffy became Joy Boy again, there was a fire festival. Like you have something familiar, the spirit. Maybe the Straw Hat is something that the way he's dressed, there's this thing of connection. So it could be the same thing with the Gorosei, except they have no other choice, or else they lose everything.
Yeah, I think that's like part of the whole. That could be part of the whole pact. Is like you have to keep it literally within the family, like.
Yeah. Celestial dragons, huh?
No, that's why they all look like that.
Yeah, that's why they all look like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I gotta shout out JJ real quick in the chat. I also am a Top Man stand. I think Top Man Workery is the GOAT. That is my man. Like, so everybody trashing him in the chat, you're wrong, and JJ's right. You're going on the list.
White sphered in the house.
Oh,
let's go. So why do you think Mars is the traitor of the Gorosei? If there is a traitor.
He has so much just parallel imagery to Gonfall in Skypiea, like we kind of covered with the Itsumade, kind of represented more through Pierre with that man face and like his kind of more pestilent looking transformation with the polka dots and spots. He just looks like a disease, And then you go to the Itsumade that we see within the current chapter, and that looks more like a Skypiea like aspect to it.
Yeah.
I had a couple panels, but I can just wing it. There is one where he has like his hand on his face, similar to that panel in Ohara that I unfortunately had to debunk the other day. So there's a panel from Ohara that people see where there's a Gorosei looking visibly distraught, going and they thought it was Nosturo or Mars. Because of the way like it was depicted in the anime, it's actually Saturn.
Yeah.
So, which is kind of weird to see him like visibly upset, but you then know that he's like this god of science and whatever. So all that knowledge being lost is just like, like I know we have to do it, but damn it. Kind of like with Egghead right now. He's like, I know we have to do it, but damn it.
Yeah.
There's actually, because I'm in the same headcanon as Mars, I have actually another point that's very interesting. Is if you go pre-time skip, there's two things that he's the only one of the Gorosei that actually wasn't stressed when they heard that Whitebeard and Shanks was going to meet up.
Mm-hmm.
And when he heard about the whole what happened to Sabaody, he asked this. He was the only one who asked one question. He was more curious about the relationship between Luffy and Rayleigh. while the other ones were upset with the image. He asked a question about what is the relationship between the Dark King and that young rookie. And if you look at what he said at the reverie, he literally says worse stuff than Clover, giving acknowledgement of the Ancient Kingdom.
Yep. He's always kind of like repping all the people that are, friendly to us, and he's just kind of like more lamenting, it seems like. But like back to that panel that's in Skypiea where he is actually like, it is Gone Fall, doing that as the parallel. He's talking about how with the 400-year conflict that's been going on with them and the Shandians, he's remiss in saying, like, are we the evil ones here? On panel, it's like, are we the evil ones? Like, we took their home from them. We established ourselves on the upper yards, just like the Celestial Dragons destroyed the Lunarians and established themselves on the Red Line. You have this one man who ties back to why I thought he was the Quetzalcoatl. He's represented as a white man with a long beard who was distressed at how the gods had been subjugating the humans and laid in wait until the fifth age was able to come about, and he was able to break free from that and help humanity once more. So it's like there's also just lots of weird stuff that could happen with that based on just the imagery that you see in the Aztec stuff there, because on the sacrificial altars there is that feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl, just kind of tying it in again.
Yeah.
The Mesoamerican influence.
Yeah.
The Itzamade stuff looks just like the right, and then Walkery has the Hoki has that weird design that looks, it's like a pattern that looks just like Laws, which makes me think that he could go to the North Blue. Then we've got Saturn, whose story was revealed during flashbacks of the South Blue, which probably ties into South Blue, and then that leaves us with I mean Gandhi Gorosei has always been
Nozdrel could be East Blue, that whole Shimatsuki tie.
I think he could be. I think he could be East Blue, and it could tie to what happened with the Shimatsuki splitting into two groups when they went to the East stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. Kind of like how the Revolutionary Army has their 4 commanders and then Ivankov in the Grand Line as the G Army, right?
Exactly. It's
the G Army.
The G Army.
The G Army.
It's not the Gay Army. It's the Grand Line.
It's the Grand Line.
It's the Grand Line.
I'm also wondering if the reason, because it's very interesting that only 4 the Gorosei attacked, the first chapter, obviously, that we've seen. And I'm very curious if the reason why it's not like he has this, I always thought it was an ego thing. I'm not going to do the first strike. What is what they said about how Marco describes Whitebeard's ability? It's not an ability that's well used with other people. That's why I said the Whitebeard, if you stay away from him, that's when he's the strongest. And I'm wondering if the Gorosei are redoing their thing, because when Warcry really be releasing his energy, it's like this crazy thing where it's just chaos everywhere, rampage.
Well,
and Gorosei cannot
could
do
be
that. It would affect their attacks.
Kind of playing off that Whitebeard quake sort of thing, and how the Fengzi is related to storms and rain. It could be this whole thunderclap, boom, seismic, blast that if you get caught up in it, doesn't matter if you're friend or foe, you're gonna be screwed.
I have to shout out. Sorry to derail the conversation a bit.
No,
I have to shout out the black man who laughs again in the chat, dude. You cook every time you come in our chats. He said Jupiter is an actual Dune reference. Venus is the book Behold a Pale Horse, which is what I was just talking about, my man. Mercury is Animal Farm, which Cube, I've said that to you 4 times, how funny I thought it was that a pig is at the top. He's the top man. It reminds me of Animal Farm. And Saturn is Charlotte's Web.
Nice.
Does not know Mars at the moment. That is really good, man. I like that. That's cooking right there. Because I said the same thing, especially about this Juro and Warcry. Go ahead, David. Yeah.
I do like something does ping when I just listen to what you're saying about it, Samadi, and or just the yokai and this seismic, this massive, I don't know, ability. It's interesting. Somebody was flying in shield, right? It makes me think that maybe eventually if he flies into it, it's just gonna electrify the barrier, maybe overpower it or something like that, overcharge it, and then it will switch the barrier off or something like that.
They're trying to discharge everything, just all right, just break it.
Yeah. For real,
Ram
for real.
yourself against it until
Yeah,
it
it's
breaks.
Yeah, I mean that's always been my strategy for a lot of things, but
Usually works.
Yeah. But it's hype. It's hype time at the moment. Absolute hype time in the manga, and like I was saying the other day that in 1084 or something like that, I was like shocked by the silhouettes reveals. I was like, whoa, and I couldn't quite get my head around it. But when I was reading this one, I was like totally there. You know, I was like, whoa, like goosebumps all over my arms and stuff like that.
Well, and then you think
But
about
yeah,
like, did
it's
Sabo
interesting.
actually see like the full scope of like what was going on, or did he have his back turned and like not actually see like everything that was behind him? He's just like, I just need to get out of here. I feel a gross presence and I don't want to turn around. Like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, I know there's 6 of them. Goodbye.
I mean, like, let's not forget Waffle. Like, Waffle, man in the know. Like, he knows a yokai when he sees one. He's valuable.
Yep.
All of a sudden, through the little glory hole.
Oh my
Waffle.
god!
Waffle's a peeping Tom.
He is. He's a peeping Tom.
Yeah, yeah, the peeping Waffle.
He's into
Yeah.
voyeurism. I think I heard that somewhere.
Yep.
Wow, that's Waffle.
Do you guys think that once we'll know, obviously, if like let's say there's one of the Gorseys a traitor, so with the 4 of them, do you think they'll each represent one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse? Because they would fit, some of them.
Yeah,
It's true. It's a hard one.
I mean, obviously,
Mm.
Mercury would be war.
Yeah.
Not
Well, see,
Nestero, death.
I think Nestero would be death. Workery would be disease.
Well,
Like plague, but like because like you said, in his form he looks sickly. Like it's then
I mean, but Saturn's whole thing is like disease and
that is
inflicting
true,
poison
yeah.
and stuff too. So
I mean, death for Nozro, I'm looking on the wiki right now because I forgot the names. Their name is White Horse, Red Horse, Black Horse, and Pale Horse. So that
Let's
can be
go.
Nozro, Pale Horse.
Yeah.
And dude, it's literally death on a dead horse.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
seeing the picture right now. Wait, I'll take the picture about it. I'll put it in the chat for us to check while you guys can see what image I
yeah, Jupiter would fit
his.
as famine because like when you have like massive dew worms messing up your like
Props.
agriculture, it's bad. Like all the big lumps and stuff.
The
Oh,
minute
those are
you
terrible.
said it, I saw it. The minute you said it, I was like,
Well, it's just like he's a worm, agriculture. Yeah, he's
so if Mercury
Famine.
is war, the sandworm is famine, Saturn is disease, like you said. That would leave death for Nestero. And the traitor, Mars.
Mars is helping us out, and he now has a 5 billion berry bounty.
They're always messing up our spice manufacturing farms.
They're always messing up our spice manufacturing farms. Someone's been watching.
I think like we've been cooking. Like I think you could probably tie each of them to a sea, and each of them, and then Samadhi to the Sky Island, and then you could say each of them are the 4 horsemen, like you say. I wonder if this gives us context on whether or not, like in 1984, we actually saw Emu as a big like silhouette of a yokai, or because there was some debate over whether there's 5 people in the picture or 6 people in the picture. I'm not sure if you remember that. But now we'll be able to go back and like check. In 1084, when the silhouettes were revealed, it wasn't kind of clear. There was some debate about whether or not we were seeing the 5 Gorosei, or we were seeing the 5 Gorosei and Emu coming down from the top.
There's the one panel that we see first. It's the 5 Gorosei with Jupiter in his hybrid form up on the stairs. There's 5 figures, and then in the next page, he's back down with the rest of the Gorosei, and that's when we see Eames' eyes going in the background, right? Because we see them like a couple. Yeah, we see them a couple panels back, and they look visibly different. Like their eyes are a lot more like diamond shaped as opposed to all the Gorosei. They have very like distinct eye shapes. So if you look at that too, you can tell that that's not Emu on the stairs in that panel.
We saw him transform also to eat Sabo's flame, and that could also be a factor. I still think that could be Emu.
Oh, that was definitely Emu.
Yeah,
that was
that
went all the way
was
upstairs, and then they reacted. There's like
and it looked like it came out of his chest too, not like his face like morphed into the thing to eat it too. It looked like his chest opened and he just like
It's like praying.
Yeah, he was crying.
Shredder, I need to talk to you.
Oh,
What's interesting is I'm reading something about the four horsemen, and just quickly, and it talks about the prophecy of the fifth, and it says that there's another horseman, a fifth, whose ride signifies a much different future and brings promise of a far better age to come, which is interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I think we
it could be
nailed
like
it.
Especially, if Mars is the traitor, you guys, I'll eat my hat. Oh,
We'll let you wash it first.
Yeah.
I still kind of feel like it's the Watchmen of the Guard. Yeah, what I was saying earlier.
Yeah, the five watchmen,
Yeah,
the center, the north, the south, the east, and the west.
I mean, that's also a very good representation of like the four horsemen plus like what he was saying.
Yeah,
but it also
with the center being the relief.
But each
like
one
the
having a
hope.
positive and a negative correlation with them. They all kind of fit. You could find one that fits for each one of these Gorosei if you look deep enough.
Yeah.
I see.
I like the pale horse buggy with the pale blue.
Yeah.
I like it.
Sadly, boys, I do have to go. I have a kind of a full house today with the kids, so I need to help my wife. But yep, you folks have a wonderful stream. Ghost, it's always a pleasure to have you on, brother. And yeah, I'll see y'all later.
We'll catch you
Bye.
soon.
Bye, bro.
Bye.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like it's interesting. Yeah, honestly, the NoZero one, I think I would love to we get a bit more because I'm very curious about it. You know.
Yeah, I want to see all their hybrid forms. I can see Warcury's hybrid form just looking like an awesome version of like Bebop and Rocksteady from Ninja Turtles, like a cool version of that. Not that that wasn't cool, that was classic. But one piece it up.
Yeah, no, I could see it's awesome. Like, yes, honestly, the yokai stuff is very interesting. I've been listening more people. That's why I've been more first very calm because at the beginning because I've been just open minded about it because I think Oda's just gonna pull just a lot of creative stuff.
Yeah,
it'll be very tough with some of the stuff, and I think we're already see with NoZero.
Mm-hmm. I think I found I linked it in the Discord the other day, something that explains Zoro's encounter with that Grim Reaper. And it's this yokai called the Gasha Dokuro, and it's this massive skeleton about 10 meters high. And if you look at that skeleton, it's looking pretty large, about 10 meters. But it's a skeleton that was summoned by the daughter of this we'll call him the protagonist of this particular story. So the daughter of this samurai summoned this, and that is how they defended the island. So if you think about Enma being the god of hell and that manifestation, that's that yokai being represented there. And the whole mythology behind it, it tells the story of basically Odin's backstory to a T. There's reference to him taking down Ashura Doji and reestablishing Kuri. There's reference to Shimatsuki village and the Kazuki, directly those provinces. And also a semi-reference to Onigashima, to the way that this creature approaches is the way it rattles. It says gachi gachi gachi, or it makes that noise. So Onigashima or Onigashima, the devil, skeletal devil, kind of tying in there. And then at the end of the story, there was a point where the head needed to be relocated because at the end of the story, the samurai was beheaded and it became deified after a while.
Mm-hmm.
So it was moved to another location, but obviously when Kaido was doing it, it was kind of a more with that island sinister motion, whereas when we see in the cover story recently, it's submerged under Wano in a more restful place in Old Wano where it's proper to be. if that makes sense.
I see opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's honest. That's very interesting. Honestly, it's like because I always find it interesting, especially the panel I put on Nozora's form that I showed about the pale horse. Is that it's interesting that at the end of Wano as well, Zoro after using perfectly Enma, who does he cross path of a Grim Reaper?
Right. And
things.
then that ties in obviously the pale horse again. Like I saw you link that picture of that pale rider having the scythe, having that overtaking, and like how you break a horse so you can ride it. That whole like terminology of just like him encountering Nosturo with the full force of Ashura and Enma kind of in sync, taking down that horse and breaking him to a degree.
There's basically with the buckets or whatever it's called. Like in some of the myths, the person, like somebody can relieve the horse of being burnt if they're on a mission of redemption. And to me, that just screams Zorro because of the whole Queen of things.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I do think he will tie into the Shimatsuki. But what were you just saying a second before that, Ghost?
Which part?
Before Kube started talking about what were you saying? Because I was going to touch on that, but
I just remember talking about the Gasha Dokuro yokai at the moment, but
oh yeah, and like now we see the cover story with Kaido, for example, with the flower capital, and like now it's almost like he did in some senses succeed his mission. It's interesting that Oda gave us that, and now we see Yamato going on this like Odin-like journey, which is a clever way of Oda doing it.
Well, and it's interesting that we also kind of get a reference of it having a different name. Like we know it as Onigashima, and if it's just like a play on like an old word where it's like that gachi whatever, Marco said, oh, that's what they're calling it now. That's interesting. So it became this deified area, and it's known to those who like have outside knowledge as something else now, which is also kind of weird and interesting.
It's definitely one of the mysteries I want. Like that was in my top 5 mysteries for sure. One Piece mysteries is what was the previous name of Onigashima, and it is just wild because obviously Kaido is an Oni, and like the
pixelating
ties to Odin as well. There's a lot going on there. Cool.
Yeah, I think that.
You got cut off, bro. You got cut off like this, but go, Josh.
Yeah, I think the original name of Onigashima is gonna be the name of that giant, while it was alive, and that will be revealed in the Voice Century flashback or something like that.
So one thing I noticed when I was looking at like the side profile, when they're showing where Big Mom and Kaido went down, and like that little silhouette of Wano, there's that portion where you see Mount Fuji and it kind of dips down, and it looks like Mount Fuji had 2 like separate exits or like toppings, and where Onigashima was is plugging that, kind of like Zoro being in the chimney, like so. It's like I don't know if that was an intentional final resting place or but it is very interesting that head was blocking another potential escape, because if you look at where it cracks on that right side, you can kind of go up. If Big Mom and Kaido were to somehow survive down there, they now have an avenue to get out without really being seen by the mainland. And that's probably why there's no news of them. It's like, okay, they're down in the crater, but there's now an opening because they moved Onigashima. There's just a big hole now. Potentially.
So, do you not think they got team rocketed? You don't think they like got team rocketed into the sky when the explosion happened?
That's also another thing, and they could have blown out that hole too. It's like because it depends on which side they were on. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't Kaido go back to Wano and try concrete again, something like that, or Big Mom? being driven by
I
revenge.
think for Kaido, I think he's just like, okay, not necessarily need to reassess things, but just kind of recoup what he can, if he can, and then make a decision, because he was waiting for Joy Boy.
Yeah.
So he might have some
Yeah, I
weird
agree,
like,
man.
give
New
me
agenda.
give me a greater battle, like, and I'll fight alongside you, but you have to promise me that like I'll die or some crap, right?
Yeah.
And also for me is, and I'll say this, is that I think if, let's say, there was an interaction during that 1 week, I do think that there's a big we don't know actually how the rocks, like, we know Kaido and Big Mom now, but we don't know about the initial dreams, those kind of stuff. Like, everything could have been on standby until Joy Boy comes. Like,
Mhm.
now that they know they're not Joy Boy, the stuff that Big Mom was doing, she can change it up, Kaido and Wano, because if you think about it, do the Rocks pirates really hate Roger? Or not? Because you think about it, Shiki wanted to team up 10 years after the God Valleys incident. So not really. Whitebeard and him were like best bros. Weirdly enough, Roger, when he took the road polyglyph, he called Big Mom Lin Lin, which she only used that to when she introduced herself to people she's close to, like her family or Kaido, how she sees her little brother. And then Kaido is always praising Roger. So it could be, I've always said, what if the Rocks believed that they were not Joy Boy because it was Roger, but when Roger died, they realized it wasn't Roger. So it could be that this whole thing that they had for Roger, when they realized Luffy is Joy Boy, like Luffy can hate them, but they could be like, okay, we don't care, and they're gonna keep an eye out, like
Right.
what? Think of Crocodile. Crocodile, we know that Crocodile is keeping an eye on Luffy from afar, and he knows that Luffy will never work with him, so he's being smart about it on how like to interact with him. Same thing with Shanks, he's doing it in a certain way. I can see the same thing with Kaido and Big Mom. Like it's the Wano was just a stepping stone to get to Joy Boy. Now that Joy Boy is here, it could be stuff from the Rock State that they're trying to bring back.
And I think if we do get a actual proper end to Big Mom and Kaido, like they do come back into the story, I think Big Mom is going to eventually end her story in Elbaf on a positive note and kind of flip the script of a like wolf in sheep's clothing that Mother Carmel was, and actually being like a rehabilitated person, and like, I don't know, mending those ties within Elbaf, having that external like secondary force inside her from Mother Carmel, like that consumption, like again going against the natural order of things to get your fruit and whatever else, and like that cannibalism could have had an extra layer of, now you have Mother Carmel's intention kind of driving you because you weren't strong enough until later on in your life to actually combat it. And that's why when she has amnesia, she's, much more childlike, she's much more amendable, she's able to cooperate with people, she's a sweetheart at heart, but she has Mother Carmel's like devil fruit and influence in her like simultaneously.
Yeah.
So she can get like the influence like beaten out of her, or she's able to finally like part with that portion of her soul, she might actually be able to awaken. You know what I mean? If she isn't already like unstatedly awakened. Because what's like, when you think about the soul, like soul fruit, how would that awaken? The way she's been using it is to just take, and to store and use it for her own means. She's not able to give a corpse or a human any of that soul. So it would have to be like an outward expression, kind of like Totland was, where it was all these homies having their particular like jobs and functions, but it was still self-serving, right? It was all for her. It was to protect her. It was to obscure others. It was to, confuse, just like that whole forest. If she was using it for good, just like her stated like motto for Totland is like a utopia for all, it just comes at a cost. She would be able to be an awakened user and she'd basically be a planetary level of just like existence. Because that ties back to my whole theory of Uranus being the planet, and like Big Mom is that blueprint where she's giving off soul, and if you're able to feed other people's desires through like an extension of like, here you go, here's something that can help you do that. Here's a homie that allows you to do that. Kind of like how we have dials that have different functions. So, it's all these different things.
I can see that. It's like the whole thing of, I say, the reason why King lost against Zoro is it was the first time that Zoro put his ambition to the side and put his loyalty first.
Mm.
He usually says, I'll become #1 swordsman because that's what the crew needs. Instead, he said, I'll do everything for Luffy to become the king of pirates, even if I have to become king of hell. You know what I mean? Like, he puts his crew, his captain first for the first time. And I think that's what you're talking about, Big Mom, and I agree. It's like she's putting herself first all the time and never her family or the others.
And then the same thing with Sanji having that internal conflict with Queen. As soon as he kind of got over himself, he was able to use his genes autonomously and like switch it and like be able to actively use what was suppressed all this time.
Exactly. Yep. Oh, I agree 100% on that.
Mm.
Like, I think for me that's the difference between white clouds and black clouds. Black clouds, you're using negative energy and negative emotions, so self-serving, fear, oppression. While those who actually use based off like good intention, positive energy, Yamato, Luffy, they have white clouds.
Mhm.
Kaido and the Gorosei seems to be using black clouds. But what do you know about Kaido? He oppresses. What do we know about the Gorosei? They use fear. What do we know about Rob Lucci and Kaku? They kill on the behalf of someone else. Like, there's not even a good reason. Like, part of them knows that it's just a job. We don't care about that. It's our purpose. So, and they have black clouds. Yeah, I think that's the whole dichotomy. Especially it's about the emotion that you use. And for the attention as well. Yeah.
Like a certain classifications could have like a duality to their awakening, whereas like the paramecia aspect could have been the original intent behind. Because like you look at the string fruit, and Doflamingo awakened that because he was perfectly encapsulating probably what the original user wanted to puppeteer and basically control everyone and everything around him. Like it's not to make clothes. He could have done that, but
yeah. And that's why I believe, and I think because Suru, I'm always behind Suru. She represents the balance in this world, and I think like Sengoku as well right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think is the balance of it is Luffy will not have white clouds or black clouds. He'll have gray clouds. Make sure both. The balance of it. You need to have a bit of black and a bit of white.
That'd be interesting.
To be able to be and
a true yin and yang Zen.
yeah, exactly. Which you can even make that Sengoku now has more what? He has more a grayish hairstyle. He went from black to gray through his gray hair. And interesting enough, in the flashback with Garp, you see the mixture of black and white all the time in his hair a bit, especially in the Dressrosa flashbacks. The top part was black, the lower part was white.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's like the whole dichotomy of it. But yeah, it's no, honestly, yeah, it's like I think we're that's why for Egghead I'm so happy about it, because I think we're at the edge of starting to understand everything with Delphoid, with hockey, everything. It's just we're missing one component, and I think it's how emotions affect certain people. Because that actually explains Thriller Bark in a nutshell, or Dressrosa.
Yeah,
I mean, Saturn definitely seemed pretty indifferent to all that stuff that went down in the God Valley incident and all that stuff, and Emu seemed pretty indifferent to Cobra. So it's almost like these guys have way less emotion. That would be a very big key to like beating them, maybe.
Oh, there was I need to read that line. Because it's another Gonfall quote. I'll find it really quick while you guys make some other points.
Oh, okay, yeah, no worries. But yeah, it's cool to see them all now. Have we got any favorites yet? I'm guessing you might have already mentioned it. I know that a lot of people, like you guys have been talking about Mars a lot.
I found the quote, by the way. It's
away.
When Gonfall says, "When a person cannot act without feeling guilt, he is at his weakest."
Interesting.
So you have to move without emotion to be your strongest. So that kind of plays into what you were saying there.
Yeah, I mean we've had it, like you mentioned, the honesty impact, the love kick from Sanji recently. We had like a love punch from Garp earlier on in the series. So there does seem to be a few like deep core emotions, like you know how in Harry Potter like love was like an old magic. It might be similar to that sort of vibe.
Yep. Absolutely. I can see that tying in perfectly.
And fear as well, because like fear is shown to like disturb so many devil fruits. You know, big
another Skypiea callback where NL says, like, fear is God.
Yeah, exactly.
It brings back to what Rayleigh has said when he first told Luffy what Conqueror's Haki is when you act without a doubt. If you think about Sanji, you brought up Sanji's fight with Queen. He had just doubt about himself, but the moment he doesn't doubt himself anymore, you know, the floodgate is open, and he can.
Yeah, it happened in Egghead as well with the Jinbei Seraphim, right? Like they're all like, everyone's like, "Oh, I'm so reluctant to fight him, Nami," and he's like, "Okay, death sentence for you." And like, I think that's the line, and then he just starts attacking him straight away.
Attacking without guilt or remorse. So he was at his strongest right there.
Samurai stuff.
Boom.
Yeah, and so a little question: what do you see, Ghost Chain? Because I'm really interesting. Where do you think we're gonna go in the next few? Well, after you come back from this 3 weeks break, where do you
come back from the 3-week break? Ooh, I don't know. Like, I think he's gonna be saving some really like big panels for it. I don't think we're gonna get like a necessarily like long chapter, but he's going to extend more than what he's been doing. Maybe like 25 pages. He has a little more time, you know. But I think we're just gonna see a bunch of brawling and see the actual abilities of the Gorosei while it's counting down. But if you notice at the beginning of this chapter, I don't think it took 3 whole minutes for them to get summoned. Vegapunk's chipping away at the time. He's just like, 7 minutes sounds good. I just made some coffee. This is literally instant coffee. 1 drop and you're done. It takes 5 seconds. And he's just like, 3 minutes. I'm bored. So he's chipping away at the time. So I think he's trying to create even more panic too. So we might. I was thinking like 5 to 6 chapters before we actually get the reveal. Could be sooner. Could be actually maybe not the chapter after the break, but then one next. We'll get the fleshed out. Thing.
Yeah, it's hype. Like we've got a big break coming, but like it gives process. Like if you want to go the Dan Hart, it gives us time to process what we've seen. Like 3 days just constantly cooking with planetary alignment, Christian astrology, stuff like the sort of stuff that gets you banned off the internet. So there's lots to like glean from this sort of jewel. But basically we're gonna have to. I'm so sorry. Right. What I was gonna say is basically, yeah, we're gonna have to tie it up because the person streaming for us, the legendary Fritz, has got to go. So if anyone has some final points to bring them up now. After that, we'll start plugging everyone and we'll go from there.
Unless you guys have any extra questions, I'm quite pleased.
I'd love to cook all day with you, Ghost. I'd love to cook all day with you. I'm like, it just happens to be a time when my kids like super keen and everyone else has got kids that are going crazy. So
all right, I'm only an @ symbol away.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been cool cooking recently.
And I feel we'll get you on a bit, especially with the time right now. I think we'll get you on much faster than the last time. So honestly, because I have more stuff, but I'm thinking that I'd like to think about it before just spinning out in the last few minutes. You know, so let's not make.
Yeah, we've got 4 weeks. Let's do this again within that break.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just Ghost and us guys, and we'll get straight back to cooking because it's always a pleasure, dude. But if you do have anything you want to plug, anything coming up, throw it out there.
Nothing crazy coming up. I'm, like I said at the beginning or just before stream, I'm gonna ask one of you guys to give me a crash course on some quick YouTube editing, and maybe I'll start launching some YouTube stuff again.
I think that's a good idea. Right it's time.
Hell yeah. But otherwise,
cool.
please check out my TikTok. It's Ghost Train CC or Ghost Train of Thought, and yeah, I got lots of theories on there. That's mostly what I'm centered around. I'm going to start branching out to maybe some other series now, but I've been so focused on One Piece, and there's been just enough content to keep me busy that haven't had to yet.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially with Egghead.
Yeah, and there's a lot more coming up as well. So, the rest of us you can find on the last arc in the server. Make sure you join. You can find all of our links to our social, and with that, we'll let Fritz say the last word and sign us out.
He's getting emotional.
Yeah, the suspense.
Oh, say that again. My bad. I was.
It's time. End it.